In a lavishly extravagant venue, rows of beautifully arranged tables adorned the space. Among them, one table seemed isolated, almost like an afterthought, where a nameplate bearing my name was placed. It was a joyous celebration for my respected brother. I had come to intimately share in his happiness. There was no reason for me to be treated like an outsider, secluded at a distance. A regular employee with a low education sits at the back, she whispered in a low voice, her laughter echoing as if she found great joy in the statement. Just as I was about to raise my voice in protest, a gentleman approached me. "Could you be, by any chance, Mr. Smith?" "Yes, that's me, but who might you be?" "A gentleman with impeccable manners." He was a well-known investor in the industry. Graciously, he thanked me, attributing his success to my efforts. "At your service, sir. It's all thanks to you." Upon the gentleman's words, one man started to clap. This applause gradually spread to others, and before I knew it, the surrounding people were looking at me with eyes filled with respect. My name is Henry, 43 years old. I have been working in an IT company for many years. My brother, James, who has watched over me since high school and into my career, has become the pride of my life as a successful entrepreneur and chairman of a major corporation owning multiple companies. When I was in middle school, our parents died suddenly in an accident. Fresh out of college, my brother took over our parents' steering retail business. After graduating from middle school, I intended to help, but my brother insisted otherwise. He urged me to go to high school for my future prospects and even managed to cover the expenses. Thanks to him, I was able to attend a high school that specialized in the field I was interested in and graduated with excellent grades. However, by that time, our family business had significantly deteriorated. As we faced the possibility of bankruptcy, my brother encouraged me to find a job elsewhere. I resisted, wanting to help with the business, but he said, "If the company goes bankrupt, we'll both be left with nothing. I don't want to drag you into this." My brother said this with a kind smile. That smile, reminiscent of our father's, also spoke of the hardships he had faced and the years they had added to his appearance. "Besides, you've always been interested in IT companies, haven't you? Don't worry about me and follow your own path." Moved by his words, I nodded for my tears. Indeed, I lacked the commercial knowledge and experience at the time to be of any help to my brother. I resolved to succeed in the IT industry and support him whenever needed. With that determination, I pursued my own path. For over 2 decades, I worked tirelessly. The IT industry was rapidly evolving, and companies that couldn't keep up were quickly left behind. Throughout this time, I continued to learn and adapt to the ever-changing technology landscape. Meanwhile, our family business stabilized, and my brother expanded his ventures, eventually leading his company to go public. "Someday, I'll establish a company where you can work. I'll be counting on you then." "Understood. I'll make sure to be there for you when the time comes." That promise was about to become a reality. At the same time, my brother, who had missed his prime marrying years, had finally decided to get married. He met his bride-to-be, Emily Parker, a woman in her 20s, through a prearranged date. Emily's father was an executive at my brother's company, which led to the matchmaking. Initially, my brother felt sorry for her due to her young age, but it turned out that Emily had fallen for him and pursued him vigorously. Despite the age difference, it won't be a problem if she truly loves my brother. I had convinced myself of this. The first time I met Emily was when my brother introduced us, following his announcement of their engagement. "This is my brother, Henry, and this is Emily." "Nice to meet you, Henry." Upon my brother's introduction, Emily flashed a brilliant smile. Emily gave off a flamboyant and glamorous vibe overall. Then, my brother's phone rang. "Excuse me, I need to step away for a moment." As soon as my brother left, Emily's demeanor changed completely. The smile vanished, replaced by a scrutinizing gaze. "Which university did you graduate from, Henry?" "Well, I didn't actually go to college." At my words, Emily blinked exaggeratedly. "Oh my, James told me about that, but I can't believe it. To think you're really just a high school graduate, and to show up dressed like this." I was stunned by her blatant contempt. Indeed, we were in a private room of a high-end restaurant located at the top floor of a hotel. Under normal circumstances, I wouldn't even come near a place like this, and my suit was an off-the-rack, budget-friendly option. She must have noticed that at a glance, indicating she comes from a rather affluent background. But that's no excuse for looking down on others. "I'm sorry about my attire. I should have been more careful." However, regarding my high school, I tried to explain that my high school was well known in the industry for specializing in a specific field. But I never got to finish my sentence. Splash! With that sound, the water from the glass Emily was holding was thrown in my face. "There's no need for such unpleasant talk. It's truly despicable that someone like you is leeching off James." Emily's gaze was ice-cold and filled with disdain. "I'm sorry, I'm back. What happened here?" Seeing me drenched, my brother hurriedly took out a handkerchief and wiped my face. "It's nothing. I just spilled some water, that's all." "Does spilling water usually result in this?" I assured my brother it was nothing and stood up. "I'm sorry, brother. I'm not dressed appropriately, so I'll be heading home now." "Yeah, you shouldn't catch a cold. Take care on your way home." "I'm not a child, you know." I left the restaurant with a laugh at my brother's words. Throughout that time, Emily glared at me from behind my brother, her contempt and malice palpable. With a mix of fear and frustration, I made my way home. Days passed without another encounter with Emily, and the day of my brother's wedding arrived. This time, to avoid embarrassing my brother, I had a suit custom made. The ceremony was to be held in a luxurious chapel of a renowned hotel. Holding the invitation, I approached the reception. Two dazzlingly dressed women stood at the reception desk. As I handed over my invitation, they checked the name and began to giggle. Was there something funny about my appearance? It was my first time with a custom suit, so I wasn't sure, but I'd be embarrassed if it was inappropriate for the occasion. It shouldn't be a breach of etiquette. "We've heard all about you from Emily. You only graduated from high school, right? Is that suit rented? It doesn't quite seem to fit you properly." With their light, bell-like laughter, they looked down on me. Indeed, I am a high school graduate. But that doesn't mean I lead a life worthy of scorn. More than that, isn't it exceedingly rude to treat someone you've just met this way? Though I felt this way, today was a special day for my brother. I didn't want to cause a scene and spoil it for him. "Could you please hurry with the registration? I'd like to go and offer my congratulations to my brother." Trying to maintain my composure, I responded, which only seemed to irritate the women further. "This isn't really a place for people like you, you know. Taking advantage of the chairman's kindness a bit too much, aren't we?" They seemed about the same age as Emily, likely in their 20s. Being berated by these young women, an indescribable irritation swelled within me. Regardless, you should be thankful to Emily for sending the invitation and arranging a seat for you. Exactly. You're probably just here for the food, right? We'd appreciate it if you left after eating. What has Emily been telling them? No, everyone, about me. It seems I'm perceived as a high school graduate leeching off my brother. Please, just hurry up and... I was about to ask them to finish the registration when they probably noticed the line forming behind me. Then, please go ahead. Just make sure not to sit in the wrong seat. With a flurry of movement, they completed the paperwork, shooing me away as if I were a stray dog. Sighing with fatigue, I headed to the groom's waiting room, After knocking and receiving a reply, I entered. "Congratulations, brother." "Henry, thank you, that suit suits you well." He complimented my custom-made suit. "You're not usually one to care about appearances, but it's good to dress up properly now and then." My brother laughed heartily, and I couldn't help but smile back. "I actually wanted to ask you to give a speech." "Come on, that's not really my thing. Too embarrassing." The thought of giving a speech at the wedding of my brother, a big company chairman, was too daunting for me. After reminiscing and enjoying each other's company, it was time for me to leave for the ceremony. The grand and lavishly decorated venue was filled with numerous tables, with some guests already enjoying lively conversations. I began searching for my seat. I was looking forward to celebrating my brother from a seat close to the groom's side. However, where the groom's family was supposed to sit, an unfamiliar man was seated. Puzzled but moving on, I checked my invitation and searched for my seat. And there, amidst the celebratory gathering, was a table set apart, standing alone. It was clearly placed in isolation, and on it was a nameplate with my name. Despite checking multiple times, my name was indeed listed there. Isn't this a bit too harsh? I can ignore the disdain directed at me. It's not worth worrying about. But what is this? A joyous celebration for my respected brother. I came here to witness his happiness up close. There's no reason for me to be treated like an outsider, hidden away at a distance. I consider myself a patient person, but this was too much to bear. Then, a familiar, mocking voice came from behind. "Oh, you actually showed up. How presumptuous of you." Her high-pitched laughter was grating. "Emily, what is the meaning of this? A regular employee with a low education sits at the back." She whispered in a low voice, her laughter booming as if she found great joy in the situation. Noticing her voice, a few people turned their gaze toward us. I knew I shouldn't cause a scene. Yet, I couldn't let this go. Just as I was about to raise my voice in anger, I noticed a gentleman approaching. "Could you be Henry Smith, by any chance?" I nodded in response to the gentleman's inquiry. "Yes, that's me, but who might you be?" It's only natural that you wouldn't know me. However, I am indebted to you." What is he talking about? I was puzzled and a bit panicked when I heard that the gentleman was Kenneth, a well-known investor. "Mr. Smith, the technology you've developed over the years at your IT company is remarkable. I was hospitalized for a long time, preparing myself for the worst." The gentleman standing before me, though elderly, exuded an aura of refinement and dignity with his upright posture and polished demeanor. He looked well and healthy. "It was the cutting-edge program and system you developed and provided for a medical device, regardless of profit, that saved me." I was taken aback, my eyes wide in surprise. "It's all thanks to you." I hurriedly tried to correct the gentleman. "Please stop, I was just helping a friend." At the time, a friend who worked at a medical equipment manufacturer approached me for advice. They were developing a device that could save many lives, but they were struggling with the programming. They wondered if there was anything I could do to help. Impressed by my friend's innovative ideas, I helped with the development of this groundbreaking device. All I did was create a system and program to ensure the device worked smoothly. It wasn't me who saved this gentleman. It was my friend. Yes, I've thanked him as well, but he said that without you, that device could never have been made. The gentleman's words caused a stir around us. "I'm an investor. I understand the value of such technology. You provided it at almost no cost. This wasn't a project for my company. Though it demanded a fair amount of effort, the fact that the device could save many lives was undeniable. Knowing that, I simply couldn't refrain from lending a hand. My friend was the one who provided the device to hospitals at an exceptionally low price. He tried to share the profits with me, but I only accepted a small sum and declined the rest. The profits should be used to create more devices that could save others. It seemed the gentleman was aware of all these exchanges. Upon the gentleman's words, one man began to clap. This applause gradually spread, and before I knew it, the surrounding people were looking at me with eyes filled with respect. What is this all about? There's no way this man, this poorly educated leech, could be so incredible. Emily's voice echoed, and the hall fell silent. Most people looked at her in disbelief. The gentleman, too, stared at Emily with a stern look, different from the one he had given me. You are Miss Parker, the daughter of the Parker family, I presume, I did advise James. With a heavy sigh, the gentleman spoke in a cold tone to Emily. That's right, I'm the bride, I'm far above him in status. Status, you say, that you are superior to Henry. Of course, I am the eldest daughter of the Parker family. No matter how prestigious your family may be, it doesn't make you superior. Miss, what have you achieved? Emily was at a loss for words at the gentleman's question. Given her age, just out of college, she likely had no work experience. There couldn't be any achievements to speak of. As Emily trembled with humiliation, some men, drawn by the commotion, approached. Leading them was the man who had been seated at the groom's side. The men following him might belong to his faction. What's going on with our daughter? Came a low voice, barely concealing irritation. So it was Emily's father, Nathan, all along. He's about the same age as me. Why would someone like him give his daughter in marriage to my older brother? I can help but suspect there might be an ulterior motive. Dad, these people insulted me. At his daughter's outcry, Nathan turned his gaze toward us. To raise your voice, even though you're a well-known investor, what is the problem? Nathan blatantly ignored me, addressing the gentleman instead, who frowned in response. I merely came to express my gratitude to him. It was your daughter who started insulting him and causing a scene. The gentleman pointed out that Emily was the one being rude. And you are? You're James's younger brother, aren't you? Surprising to see you show your face at the wedding. Quite bold, aren't you? There's no reason for you to disrespect me like this. I am his family. It's only natural for me to be here to celebrate. I finally let out what I had been holding back. Yes, I am the brother's sibling, his only family. I have no reason to be criticized by others for attending the wedding. Just as Nathan was about to say something more, my brother entered the hall with a brisk step. What's all this commotion? Did you come to greet my brother? Though he was smiling, I, who know my brother well, could tell it was a gesture he made when angry. James, this person was awful. Just because he's your brother, he was terrible to me. Be quiet for a moment. My brother's quiet words carried a strong, irrefutable command. Emily, who seemed about to cling to my brother in fear, froze in place. I'm aware of the various schemes you've been plotting. My brother spoke coldly, staring at Nathan and his entourage. I thought this might be a good opportunity to cleanse the company of its corruption. Nathan and his group's faces contorted at my brother's chuckle. They must have known what they were guilty of. What are you accusing me of? Recognizing the bluster in Nathan's flustered tone, my brother silently summoned a man. The man approached from behind Nathan with an unfazed expression. His entourage watched with incredulous faces. And to my surprise, I recognized the man's face. He was an old childhood friend who had joined my brother's company about 10 years ago to help us out. Surprised that he and I seemed at odds since he joined, actually, he's a friend. Your actions have been completely transparent to us. While my brother smiled broadly, Nathan and his group began to tremble. What on earth is going on? Emily, too, looked bewilderedly at her father. I gathered you here under the pretext of a wedding reception. The company you are managing is currently being inspected by the tax authorities, in place of the employees here. If you do that, it will damage the company. This implies Nathan has something to hide. Indeed, an inspection of a large corporation like my brother's could lead to a scandal and potentially crash the stock prices. But my brother spoke firmly. So what? We've faced and overcome adversity and crises many times, thanks to the cooperation of trustworthy employees. And then he delivered a chilling statement. That's why we don't need someone we can't trust like you. That was the final blow. Following my brother's command, the police entered the hall, handed Nathan a warrant, and took him away. Watching this, Emily collapsed in tears. My brother, paying her no mind, walked over to me. I'm sorry you had to go through this. It must have been tough. Responding to my brother's kind words, I simply smiled back. What are you talking about? As long as you believe in me, that's all that matters. Amidst our conversation, a shrill cry cut through the air. It's so unfair. I just love James, that's all. You were wronged, and I apologize for that. However, what your father did is unforgivable. But what about the company? If Dad gets arrested, it'll be a disaster. That was something I was prepared for. Emily was speechless at her brother's calm reaction and despaired at his attitude when he stopped making eye contact. At that moment, the gentleman spoke to my brother. Indeed, your company might face tough times, but I believe in your future success and would like to invest in it. My brother and the gentleman shook hands with smiles on their faces. Meanwhile, Emily was sobbing, exclaiming how unbelievable and terrible this all was. Emily had been harsh to me. Honestly, I disliked her. However, I couldn't bear the thought of Emily and her mother suffering due to Nathan's crimes. Brother, may I have a moment? What is it, Henry? I was thinking about Emily. Could we possibly offer her a position at your company? Emily, having just graduated from college, had no job experience. Working in a top-tier company would be a significant challenge for her. Given her pride, she might even disdain menial tasks. Yet, she must work. For her remaining mother and for herself. Despite the unpleasant things Emily had said to me, her love for my brother was genuine, and I didn't want to abandon her. You really are something. All right, let's do that. Emily, tears still streaming down her face, silently nodded in agreement. Following the exposure of Nathan's corruption, my brother's company did suffer a temporary setback, but it was fundamentally strong. With the dedication of its employees and investment from the renowned investor, the company has fully recovered its vitality. I then resigned from my long-term job and joined my brother's company. As promised years ago, my brother had established an IT-related firm, and I was slated to become its CEO. Though new to a leadership role, I was determined to use my experience and knowledge to guide and mentor the younger generation. Years have passed since then. My brother and I were visiting our parents' graves. Much time has flowed since we lost our parents. Now, at last, the two of us are working together in a company passed down from our parents. We vowed at their graves to continue growing the company, supporting each other as brothers. And in the gentle sunlight, we walk side by side under the dappled shade, heading down a bright path together. Come on, Jacob, make sure you give a proper greeting to the board members, all right, in French. Tyler said this to me without even making eye contact. In front of the board members who came to inspect our department, Tyler was forcing me to greet them in French. It was easy to imagine that he was trying to embarrass me, knowing that I only had a middle school education. Come on, give it a try. Even middle school level French might get through if you're lucky. He patted my shoulder, urging me on. Tyler was under the mistaken impression that I couldn't speak French. If I really couldn't speak French, I would likely end up having a childish and clumsy conversation. As a result, I would become the laughing stock, just as Tyler intended. But unfortunately for him, the world doesn't always work the way you want it to, Tyler. Then, I opened my mouth. The beginning of Tyler's hell. My name is Jacob. Just a regular guy. I think of myself as just an average man, embarrassingly ordinary compared to others. If I had to say, my only distinguishing feature is my love for traveling. Alone, at that. It's not that I don't have friends, but when it comes to traveling, I prefer going solo. I get to fully enjoy my favorite places and foods, and there's a certain luxury in the moments that can only be experienced alone. That's the real joy of travel for me. Because of my love for travel, I used to go on whirlwind trips a lot during my student days. I didn't have much money, so I used things like youth travel passes, which made the trips somewhat restrictive, but they made me feel alive, and I loved them. I haven't been able to go on such trips lately due to my busy job, but I'm thinking of going again once things settle down. In my mind, I'm always fantasizing about where to go next, what to eat, and so on. I currently work at a global company. It has branches all over the world and is quite large. The employees are not just American, but also foreigners. Everyone can speak English well enough for communication, so there are no issues in the office. Although my days are busy, talking with people from other countries provides a stimulating experience. Talking to them makes me even more eager to travel, fueling my fantasies. I was fortunate to have many good peers, seniors and juniors, but there was one troublesome guy. The department manager, Tyler. This man was quite a character. Out of all the people in this international company, I had the bad luck of having an American boss who was such an oddball. Did I do something in a past life? Me. Tyler boasts about graduating from Oxford University in the United Kingdom, constantly flaunting his educational background. But just to be clear, his Oxford claim is self-proclaimed. Self-proclaimed. Such a Tyler is an elitist who belittles others based on their educational background. Unfortunately for me, I was excluded from Tyler's selection and was deemed someone to be looked down upon. He would often say, "Jacob's education level is low, so I wonder if it's safe to assign him such difficult tasks. I'm worried. Low education, you know." He would mutter this to himself, even when nobody asked. This monologue would continue until someone responded, "Well, don't worry about education and just give me the task. I'll work on it with you," said Olivia, my colleague. She graduated from a famous national university, so she wasn't looked down upon by Tyler. She always responded properly to Tyler's monologues, cutting short his discriminatory remarks towards me. "If you say so, I guess I'll leave it to you. Make sure you keep an eye on him, okay? He's a middle school dropout, so you never know what he might do." He spoke in a low voice. "I can hear you." With that, she casually said yes and returned to his desk. Once back at his desk, he said, "Well then, good luck with that, Jacob." While saying this, Tyler was vigorously wiping his ear with a disinfectant wipe, the one he had just used to talk to. Without showing any signs of disgust, he was wiping his ear as casually as one would wipe their hands before a meal. There may be no ill will, but from a guy's perspective, such actions by women can be quite unsettling. I've been enduring Tyler's persistent harassment with an adult's response, though inwardly I find it annoying. Tyler seems increasingly displeased with my lack of negative reaction. Then, there was an announcement about a company inspection. It's rare, but once every few years, board members from the headquarters come to observe the work environment. They do more than just observe. Sometimes they conduct interviews and later send feedback for improvement. It's not exactly announced, but the notice usually comes suddenly, like "We're coming tomorrow, so be ready," leaving no time to prepare. That should be the case, but Tyler was different. I completely forgot that he's not the normal type. I thought that even if he pretends for a day, his true colors would quickly show, but Tyler was desperately trying to coat everything with a veneer. Hey, make sure you wipe everything down. Don't leave a single piece of trash. Finish this paperwork by today. If we have unfinished work, they'll think our department is slow. He was shouting things like that. Then, he pushed his own work onto his subordinates and sat back in his chair. Hey Jacob, you do this data entry, it's due today. He threw a thick pile of documents onto my desk. Even with your low education, you should be able to handle this much. Don't drag me down. Tyler must be desperate to make a good impression on the board members, acting like a capable manager to advance his career. He probably wants to clear all the piled-up work by today to show them a department that works quickly. Despite having our own work, we're forced to prioritize Tyler's tasks, so we'll probably end up working overtime today. Ideally, I wouldn't want to do Tyler's work, but if I neglect it, who knows what he'll do later. It's better to quietly follow his instructions to avoid trouble. On the day of the inspection, one after another, company executives like the president and vice presidents gathered. Our company employs talented individuals regardless of their nationality, so the upper echelon includes people from various countries. Even I was nervous in front of such a distinguished crowd. Tyler, especially eager for promotion, was hiding his usual arrogance and being obsequious. Watching him, I muttered under my breath, "He's a different person today." Olivia, standing next to me, tried to suppress her laughter. It seems she heard my muttered comment. Sorry, did you hear that?" Trying to hide it, I heard it clear as day. "Jacob, you sometimes say funny things under your breath, don't you?" Olivia said with a smile. Yeah, I think Olivia laughed too much, though. But well, it's true that Tyler seems like a completely different person today. Has his personality been replaced or something? I agree with what Olivia says. It's frightening how much people can change, driven by their desires. As the board members were let in, one of them saw me and said, "Isn't that Jacob?" The man, Michael, with a meticulously groomed, eccentric beard resembling Dolly's, was an older gentleman. Michael was a friend of my father and had helped me get this job. By the way, Michael holds a division chief position at the headquarters. It's been since you joined, hasn't it? How have you been? Honestly, there have been too many changes, almost overwhelming. But I didn't want to burden Michael, who was talking cheerfully, with my troubles. Of course, I'm thriving every day, all thanks to you, Michael. I really appreciate it. There's no need to be so formal. It's true that I introduced you here, but all the achievements from then on are due to your own abilities," he said, gently patting my shoulder. "You might be working at the headquarters soon if you keep this up." I started to feel embarrassed from such high praise. "Oh, I'm still far from it," I responded maturely to Michael's words. "There's no need to be modest. You agree, don't you?" He turned to Olivia. As Olivia was smiling in response, Tyler loudly announced the start of the morning assembly. It seemed like he was trying to interrupt our conversation. "I'll see you later," said Michael as he walked away from us. Tyler quickly seized the opportunity to confront me. "What are you getting cocky about, you middle school dropout?" I stood there, clueless about what he meant. That was Michael, the division chief, wasn't it? "Listen, no matter how much you try to show off, it's pointless. If you get too carried away, I'll make sure you regret it," he warned. So, he saw me chatting with Michael and thought I was trying to ingratiate myself with the board. I wish he wouldn't lump me in with himself. I brushed off Tyler's comment and returned to my seat. The morning assembly began, and Tyler loudly greeted the board members. "Every employee in this department is excellent, and I have fulfilling days thanks to them. Among these talented individuals, Jacob here is particularly outstanding," he said, grinning at me. What was he up to? Praising me in front of the board seemed too strange. Despite being a middle school graduate, Jacob works shoulder to shoulder with us. He said in a way that was unclear whether it was praise or ridicule. No, it was definitely ridicule. Michael nodded in approval. "No, Michael, I'm being disparaged. Jacob has expressed a desire to give a speech in front of the board members. Of course, I had said no such thing. So that was his plan. Rest assured, the speech will be entirely in French," he added, probably thinking I couldn't speak French. It was easy to imagine he wanted to embarrass me with my peu French in front of the international audience. This must be retaliation for my earlier conversation with Michael. The executives encouraged me to speak, saying, "All right, let's hear it." It was a bit disappointing that Tyler had started harassing me in front of everyone. I never thought someone would go to such lengths just out of sheer jealousy. I could reluctantly accept someone exaggerating their own worth to some extent. But in my opinion, anyone who can only elevate their value by lowering others is honestly worthless. This was an opportunity Tyler had unwittingly given me. I thought to myself that I should make the most of it and repay Tyler for everything he had done. First, I introduced myself in English in front of the board. Then, as Tyler wished, I started speaking in French. Tyler was visibly shocked to hear me speaking fluently. His gaping mouth looked so comical that I almost laughed. Olivia seemed to have given up trying to hold back her laughter, her shoulders shaking with silent chickles. The stark contrast between Tyler's and Olivia's reactions was so extreme that I couldn't help but feel amused myself. As I mentioned before, our company has a global presence, so the board members have diverse roots and origins. The vice president is from Spain, the managing director from France, and Michael, the division chief, I believe has Italian roots. While recalling the board members' countries and roots, I continued my speech, seamlessly switching between languages as appropriate. I fluidly transitioned from French to Spanish, then to Italian, and so on. I hadn't planned the content of my speech since Tyler sprung it on me suddenly, but I felt obliged to meet his expectations. To keep the conversation going, I exposed the mistreatment I had received from Tyler in various languages. I candidly revealed the hardships he had inflicted on his subordinates. I talked about how he boasted about being an Oxford graduate and his arrogant behavior towards subordinates with lower educational backgrounds. Being berated for being incompetent simply because of a lower educational level. The fact that I had been subjected to such treatment. And how Tyler, under the mistaken belief that I couldn't speak French due to my middle school education, had set up this speech to embarrass me in front of the board members. I revealed all these details. As I continued my speech, the expressions on the board members' faces gradually turned more perplexed. I delivered the speech in multiple languages, and as expected from such accomplished individuals, they seemed to understand the meanings even in foreign languages. Tyler, on the other hand, appeared to only understand French. He seemed to follow the speech initially, but as I switched languages, he was clearly lost. Unable to keep up, he looked around bewildered. I finished my speech. The board members were whispering among themselves. Behind me, Olivia was holding her stomach, laughing. It seemed she had understood the content of my speech. When our eyes met, she gave me a thumbs up and mouthed "Good job." Michael approached Tyler with a furrowed brow. "Is what Jacob just said true?" he asked, his voice laden with authority. However, the person in question, Tyler, didn't understand what I had said. Muttering well, he became flustered and was unable to respond to Michael. Meanwhile, Olivia raised her hand from behind the board members. "Jess, you're the girl from earlier. What is it? Michael asked. With a bright smile, Olivia replied energetically. What Jacob said is true. Everything about Tyler belittling others based on their education and his harassment is all true, she said. Hearing this, Tyler glared at Olivia, saying, "Don't make up such baseless accusations in front of the board members." Usually, Olivia would back down quickly, but not this time. She stood her ground, dignified as if it were her final battle. "I'm not making this up." Jacob spoke in French, Spanish, Italian, and German. "Right, Tyler, did you not understand? You always mock others for their education, but it's strange, isn't it? You always say you were excellent at Oxford," she retorted, taunting him. Tyler, his face red with anger, yelled at Olivia, "Shut up! Shut up!" Amidst the commotion, President Thompson said quietly, "That's enough." His few words, filled with more than just anger, were enough to command the room. But it seemed to have no effect on the foolish Tyler. "Don't believe what these mere employees say. It's clear that I contribute more to the company." He appealed directly to President Thompson. "These people are framing me. It's impossible for this middle school graduate to speak languages other than English. He must be bluffing, just making it sound convincing." Tyler ranted, insulting me crudely. "Keep your filthy mouth shut for once, Tyler." Executive Director Elizabeth glared at him. "I'm not saying I believe everything he said, but the more you talk, Tyler, the more credible his words seem. Am I the only one who thinks so?" she observed. Michael then spoke up. "I'm quite familiar with Jacob. He has stayed in various countries since he was young, so it's not surprising that he can use different languages. I am of mixed heritage. My father is American, and my mother is half French and half American. My maternal grandfather immigrated from Eastern Europe to France. Though I'm a quarter American, I look like a typical American and have rarely been recognized as mixed race at first glance. My father, a senior figure in a trading company, frequently traveled abroad for work, even as a regular employee, and often rented residences overseas. He met my mother through his work, and they married, leading to my birth. At home, we used both French and English. I was born in America but spent my early years traveling to various countries due to my father's job. I spent my middle school years in America, then moved to France, where I attended University PSL in Paris. Since I was only in America until middle school, my final educational qualification there was junior high school. When Tyler heard that I had attended University PSL, he turned pale. University PSL is a renowned university in France, known for its extremely high entry standards. However, I've always believed that educational background isn't everything. There are more important things than academic credentials, and in a society that needs to constantly progress, flaunting decades-old achievements seems utterly pointless to me. I've always said that what matters more than where you graduated from is what results you produce in the future, I often retorted when Tyler treated me as incompetent. But to Tyler, my words, coming from a middle school graduate, never seemed to register, dismissed as mere sour grapes. In reality, being a graduate of a globally renowned university meant Tyler could no longer ignore what I said. I wondered if I had done something wrong. Tyler, who had been ranting and raving until a moment ago, now seemed deflated and subdued, his only identity of being a high achiever seemingly invalidated. Michael continued his pursuit of Tyler. "Tyler, your educational background is indeed impressive. However, using it as a shield to compare yourself to others and assert your superiority is foolish. Truly wise people don't judge others by their educational background but by their character. In that respect, I'm afraid you're acting foolishly." Tyler opened his mouth to retort but seemed unable to find the words and closed it again. He appeared very frustrated, his tightly clenched fists trembling. "All you've treasured seems to be just past glories," said Elizabeth, looking over a pile of documents. An Oxford graduate in name only, dumping your work on subordinates, imposing unreasonable targets. What exactly have you learned since joining this company? It seems the real incompetent one here is you. Tyler exclaimed, "That's absurd. I was just wishing for the growth of my subordinates." He tried to justify. Trying to appear innocent now seemed embarrassingly insincere. This inspection was also part of selecting members for a major upcoming project. Michael approached Tyler and said, "Your name was among the candidates, but after today's events, you will no longer be participating in the project." Tyler pleaded tearfully. "Wait, please, I've worked hard for this company. Maybe I went too far in my training methods, but..." Before he could continue, President Thompson intervened. "Stop devaluing yourself. Acknowledging your faults and changing your behavior is the best contribution you can make to our company now. Don't you think?" Tyler was admonished for his behavior towards his subordinates and warned that further actions might lead to more severe consequences. He quietly listened to the board members discuss his future. The inspection was temporarily suspended. It was impossible to start regular work in such a tense atmosphere. After a short while, I was called by Michael to a meeting room. There, I found Michael, Elizabeth, and Olivia, who had also been summoned. "Thank you for your courage in speaking up earlier." Elizabeth thanked me. "I'm sorry for the way I exposed the issue. It was rather rough." "Well, it was indeed a bit rough. While Tyler is to blame, you did demean your direct supervisor in front of the board." "Indeed, that's true." While it may seem like Tyler was entirely at fault, an accusation without following the proper procedures can be perceived as mere slander or gossip. To adhere to the company's rules, there should have been an established protocol to address such issues. But Elizabeth, enduring harassment and finally speaking out in such a drastic way is understandable. Olivia interjected in my defense. "Indeed, that's why we won't reprimand him this time, and being multilingual like that is quite a talent," Elizabeth complimented. Her recognition of my abilities was genuinely heartening. "So, Jacob, we'd like you to join the major project we mentioned earlier, along with Olivia." Olivia and I were both surprised. In fact, Olivia's reaction was even louder than mine. As for Jacob, as we said earlier, the board members consider him a great talent and want him to participate. Olivia was the only employee, other than the board members, who understood and supported what Jacob said. Indeed, Olivia had understood my words and even backed me up. If I'm considered a talent, then Olivia should receive equal recognition. "Me too?" Olivia asked, her voice trembling like a small animal. "Of course, we really want you both on board," Elizabeth reassured her, holding her hand. The project was global in scale, necessitating multilingual skills. I might not be as skilled as Jacob, but I can speak about 8 languages well enough for tourism, Olivia said enthusiastically, rolling up her sleeves. Olivia, it seems, also enjoys traveling and began learning languages to communicate with locals. She finds joy in understanding the various backgrounds of the places through their languages. I admired Olivia's attitude of not just sightseeing but wanting to understand the culture and history of the places she visits, and I found myself wanting to know more about her. After Michael and Elizabeth outlined the project, I agreed to participate, and things progressed swiftly. I soon started working jointly with people from the headquarters. Thanks to Michael's arrangement, I was paired with Olivia. It was thought that working with a colleague on this first major project might be smoother than pairing with someone I didn't know. Once, we had a business meeting with a salesman from an Italian company. True to his Italian roots, he praised Olivia and even tried to flirt with her. "What's with this guy? We're in the middle of work. Is this typical for Italians? The passion of their country is something else." Olivia, seemingly unaccustomed to being flirted with, looked a bit troubled. I said lightly, "This is a business meeting, so please keep it professional," but he showed no intention of stopping. I didn't want to be too forceful and risk jeopardizing the deal. However, watching Olivia being flirted with so closely and having her hand held, I found myself inexplicably irritated. I intervened between them, saying with a firm smile, "I am the main contact here. Please direct your attention to me." The salesman chuckled, saying, Okay, I'll cool it." After that, he stopped bothering Olivia, and the business deal was successfully concluded. As we were about to leave, the Italian salesman suddenly put his arm around my shoulder. "Hey brother, you should just be honest and go for it," he suggested. He said this with a shy smile. "What are you talking about?" I asked, puzzled. "Hey brother, your face is all red. You really thought you could hide it," the salesman said, chuckling as he left. Even when I got home, I kept thinking about the cheerful salesman's words. Just be honest. Since the meeting room incident, I had become acutely aware of Olivia. I thought my feelings were just admiration, nothing more. But seeing another man make advances towards her during the negotiation, my heart felt strangely agitated. I guess I must like Olivia. I felt a bit of regret. Not for falling for her, but for being made aware of my feelings by that carefree Italian salesman. Realizing it because someone else pointed it out made me feel like a grade schooler. Realizing my feelings for her made every little thing she did stand out to me. Had she always smiled so adorably? I pondered over how charming her expressions were every day. Our shared interests and conversations were so enjoyable, it was undeniable. "I've noticed you always watching her. Is that really how it is?" While eating in the cafeteria, I overheard the conversation of employees sitting behind me. "Yes, I suppose so. Young love is so cute." That voice sounds familiar. Should I just go and tell them? Maybe I should play Cupid. Don't meddle. Go for it, Elizabeth. Be the Cupid of love. I knew these two would actually do it. I had to stop them. "Please don't bother with unnecessary things," I protested. It was Elizabeth and Michael behind me. Since that incident, they had been strangely involved with me. I never knew Michael had such a playful side. Despite their teasing, I worked earnestly. Maybe even more so because of Olivia. I wanted to show her my best side. Thanks to our efforts, the major project we were part of was a success. At the celebration, everyone was enjoying the meal with joyful faces. I looked around the venue for Olivia but couldn't find her. Thinking she might have stepped outside, I opened the door to the lobby. There was Olivia. With Tyler. I hid and eavesdropped on their conversation. "Are you sure about this? You might not be able to return for years," Tyler said, no longer in his usual sarcastic tone, but genuinely concerned for his subordinate. Since then, Tyler had stopped belittling others based on their education. I felt uneasy and couldn't bring myself to approach them, so I continued to listen secretly. "I can believe you volunteered for an overseas transfer." An overseas transfer? This was news to me. I knew our company had recently established a new branch in a different region. But her volunteering for a transfer was unexpected. And she had requested it herself. "Are you sure about this? You might not be able to return for years." Olivia simply responded, "I'm aware of everything." After Tyler left, I approached Olivia. "Are you really going overseas?" Olivia looked surprised at my question. "Sorry, I was eavesdropping," I admitted. "I've always planned to work abroad, and this time, they asked for volunteers. I decided to take the chance. This project's success pushed me forward," she explained, her face shining. "I don't plan to stay there forever. I want to build a home in America. It's just a step for self-improvement. It sounds cool when I say it," she said with a smile I loved. After a moment of hesitation, I said, looking straight at her, "There's something I want you to hear. I like you." She looked up at me with wide eyes. "I don't want to be apart, but I want to support you in your work, so can I visit you sometimes?" I said, scratching my cheek. In moments like this, I get frustrated at myself for not being able to say something more clever. But she responded by embracing me with a beaming smile. "Definitely. You must come to visit me." I hugged her back. A month later, Olivia left for overseas. I might have felt only sadness before, but now it was different. I trusted her, and she trusted me. Olivia reports that her work is challenging but fulfilling. Her updates about various happenings outside of work, both the big and small moments, I find endearing. She wears a ring, and I have its matching pair on my finger. I thought the promise rings might be too much, but Olivia accepted them happily. "At times when I feel lonely, I'll look at this and cheer up," she said with a smile at the airport, making me realize once again how precious and dear she is to me. Wearing the same rings, even when we are apart, I feel like our hearts are connected. Right now, I'm planning various things, lying on my bed. I've decided to travel to meet Olivia. The excitement of seeing her outweighs the anxiety of visiting an unknown place. Thinking about how to greet her, or what kind of stories will make her happy, brings a smile to my face. I've always enjoyed traveling, but this trip seems to be the most exciting one yet. It's not about where you go, but who you go with. That saying really rings true. "I think we need to break up," she said suddenly. I was stunned by her unexpected words. In my right hand, I was holding a diamond ring, and she was looking bitterly at it. "What do you mean by breaking up, Emma? You told me you wanted to marry me. That's why I'm so sorry. I've fallen for someone else. I'm very sure that you'll find someone better than me, and someone who deserves that ring more than I do." I felt like crying, but nothing came out. The girl who just broke up with me had tears brimming in her eyes and a pained expression on her face. "Goodbye." Her voice echoed into the distance. The alarm on my phone went off, and I woke up feeling tired. "My name is Ryan. I got fired from my job last week. Lately, I keep having this dream. A dream where an old girlfriend of mine breaks up with me. It's been 10 years since that actually happened, and I thought I had moved on. Why now all of a sudden? Maybe because the fact that I was fired last week still hurts. When something bad happens, unpleasant memories come flooding back. Seriously, I can't believe there still are some companies that prohibit employees from working a second job. It was my fault, but anyway, that was why I got fired. For doing another job. But that was something I had to do, as it was like a passion for me. Well, what do you do? I went to a few employment agencies to sign up. After that, since I had some time in the afternoon, I went to my favorite cafe to eat pancakes and thought about a present for my girlfriend. Of course, not for the girl from the dream. Fortunately, I'd been blessed with a new girlfriend, and we'd been together for just over 3 years. Unlike when I was with Emma, this time I already got an answer to my proposal. I didn't want to be dumped at the very last minute like before. I noticed there was a new text message on my phone. "I'll help you with the preparations tomorrow. I'll be there by 9 a.m. Love you." Reading the message, I smiled, remembering what my plan was for the next day. "Okay, can't wait to see you. Love you too," I replied to the message, pulling myself together. The next day was her birthday, and also the day of my first solo exhibition. I rented space at an art gallery in a shopping district to display the jewelry I made. I started making jewelry in college as a way to relieve stress, but never expected it would reach the level where I could sell them online. Then that online business page was discovered by a colleague, and that was how my boss found out about my second job. Even though I lost my main job, I was making a decent income from my jewelry business, so I wasn't worried at all. I just never thought about making it my main job, but this exhibition might be a good opportunity to seriously consider that. With that thought, I felt even more motivated. The next day, when I arrived at the gallery, Sarah was already there, discussing with the person in charge and preparing for my exhibition. "Ryan, you're late." "Sorry, Sarah. I overslept a bit. I thought you were a morning person," Sarah said, her surprise making me feel guilty. I couldn't possibly tell her that I overslept because I had a dream about Emma. "Just got lost in thought and stayed up late last night. Are you still worried about being fired?" "Yes, something like that." "Don't worry about it. It is what it is. Now you can openly do what you love." To cheer me up, Sarah smiled warmly. For a moment, her smile reminded me of Emma's, which was making me feel uneasy. "Wow, this ring is really pretty." Suddenly, while arranging the display items, Sarah spoke up. Following her gaze, I saw her looking at a diamond ring prominently displayed on the shelf. That ring brought back the painful memories of the past. That was the first ring I ever made. Really, it's so well made. It wasn't that hard, probably because I had been making other types of jewelry since my university days. Initially, I only made simple items like earrings and cufflinks for myself. It wasn't until I met my ex-girlfriend, Emma, that I started making jewelry with someone else in mind. I was seriously considering marriage with Emma. Wanting to gift her a ring, I began jewelry making in earnest. In the end, Emma never received the ring I made for her. I might want this one for an engagement ring. What? I froze at Sarah's words. The idea of giving my current girlfriend the ring I made for Emma felt so wrong. Although I loved Sarah very much, I kept dreaming about Emma. I still wondered why Emma looked so pained when she broke up with me. That thought made it impossible to forget her. "We're running out of time. We need to finish setting up soon." True, Sarah's words brought me back to my senses. Having nearly finished arranging the display items, I also completed setting up the cash register. Looking at Sarah, I saw her again gazing at that ring. Was this the sort of ring Emma telling me about, I wonder? Sarah was only talking to herself. Muttering softly, Sarah noticed me standing silently and quickly came towards me. Wait, what did she just say? Was it just a coincidence, or did I hear it wrong? But either way, doubts began to surface in my mind. As the exhibition opened, many people, primarily my supporters on social media, gathered. The displayed jewelry sold quickly, and the ring Sarah liked also attracted lots of attention. "Isn't that ring for sale?" "I'm sorry. This ring is for display only, and I have no intention of reproducing it." That's a shame. Each time I watched a customer leave, I thought about the dream I had the night before. When I decided to exhibit that ring, I thought that meant I had moved on from Emma. Yet since she appeared in my dream, all I could think about was her. Why can't I forget Emma? She dumped me after all. "How much is this ring?" "It doesn't have a price tag." Another customer inquired about the ring, and Sarah, who was standing nearby, responded, "I'm sorry, this is only for display and not for sale. It was made by Ryan for someone very special to him. We appreciate your understanding," she said politely to the customer. Did Sarah know about Emma and that the ring was originally intended for her? That fleeting thought from earlier returned. And for some reason, Sarah reminded me of Emma. "Sarah, how did you know this ring was so special to me?" "Well, you always look so wistful when you look at it. There are other items that are not for sale." but it's obvious that this ring is something special, just by watching you, Ryan." Sarah answered, pouting, and seemed to be telling the truth. But why did she murmur her name earlier? "Are you sure you're telling me everything? What do you mean? How did you know about Emma?" "What, Emma? You mean Emma, my cousin? How do you know about her?" "Your cousin." As we looked at each other in surprise, an elderly man approached and asked me, "Excuse me, how much is this ring?" I was startled at first, but soon realized who that man was. Wait, this man is... He was Emma's father. As I visited her house several times when I was still going out with Emma, I knew her parents very well. Although I hadn't seen them since our breakup, and Emma's father had aged quite a bit, I knew straight away that it was definitely him. "Oh, Sarah, Uncle James, what are you doing here?" Before our surprise subsided, Emma's father and Sarah exchanged those words, surprising me even more. I needed to know what was going on, so I asked Emma's father if we could talk after the exhibition. He agreed to meet me at a nearby cafe. When our coffee arrived, Emma's father quietly lowered his eyes without drinking his. "Emma passed away the other day." His words left me in utter shock, unable to comprehend. Sitting next to me, Sarah also widened her eyes, seemingly at a loss for words as well. "What do you mean? What happened to Emma?" My voice trembled as I finally managed to speak. "She had a terminal illness. It started 10 years ago. The disease was already advanced when discovered, and the doctor told her that she wouldn't live long. That was why she broke up with you, lying about falling for someone else. I never thought Sarah would be dating you, Ryan." Was Emma suffering all this time, choosing to break up with me so as not to involve me in her struggle with illness? I recalled the pained expression on her face when she said goodbye to me, suddenly making sense of it. Yet, it still didn't feel real. Next to me, stunned, Sarah slowly began to speak. "I knew Emma was sick, but I never knew it was that bad, and she passed away. She fought for 10 years, initially given only 6 months to live. We informed your parents, Sarah, but it seems the news hadn't reached you." Sarah silently shed tears, and both Emma's father and I quietly thought of her. After about 5 minutes of silence, as Sarah's tears subsided, I asked her, "So are you related to Emma?" "Yes, we are cousins. Our homes were far apart, and with her health condition, I didn't get to see her lately. But we used to be very close like sisters when we were young." "No wonder you somewhat resembled Emma." "Do you think so? Our relatives often say that too." "Yes, they did resemble each other." A while ago, Emma told me about her old boyfriend she was still in love with. He made a ring for her, but she had to break up with him because of her illness, and didn't get to receive the ring. I never thought you were that person, honey. When I saw that ring earlier, I just wondered if the ring Emma told me about looked similar to that. Maybe Sarah sensed something when she was gazing at that ring. I was thinking that when Emma's father looked at me apologetically. "I came here today to ask you if I could borrow that ring to put in Emma's coffin." He showed me the flyer for my exhibition. "Emma never stopped thinking about you. She followed your social media, even secretly buying your jewelry under a friend's name. When she saw a photo of the ring on this flyer, she cried, asking me to put it in her coffin when she died." Why didn't Emma tell me? Hearing her true feelings from her father meant a lot to me, and I finally understood why she had to break up with me. But at the same time, I had an overwhelming sense of guilt when I thought about Emma suffering on her own all those years, and I had no idea what was going on. As Sarah's tears finally eased, mine began to flow uncontrollably. "When is Emma's funeral?" "It's scheduled for tomorrow. That's why I'm asking. I know it's a lot to ask, but I'd like to buy that ring off you. If that's not possible, could I borrow it so I could at least put it in her coffin during the funeral? I just want to fulfill her last wish." He looked at me earnestly. His beloved daughter passed away, and he came to see me the day before her funeral just to fulfill her last wish. I gripped Emma's father's hand firmly. "Please take it with you. I made it for Emma anyway." Thank you. Tears spilled from his eyes as if something inside him had collapsed. The next day, Sarah and I took a taxi to the designated funeral home. I wonder if Emma will be happy with this ring. Of course, she will be. Sarah took my hand and squeezed it encouragingly as I voiced my uncertainty. In the inner pocket of my suit was the little case containing the ring. I was about to give it to Emma. Gripping her hand tightly, I finally reunited with Emma after 10 years. Long time no see. Emma, lying in the coffin, didn't say anything. Her body had become frail and thin, but her face hadn't changed since I last saw her. I brought you a ring today. Sorry for being late. From now on, this ring will stay by your side to protect you, so please, don't cry. I gently opened the ring case, and the diamond sparkled brightly inside. I took it out of the case and placed it in the coffin. Apparently, the ring couldn't be cremated with her. But Emma's father had negotiated with the funeral home to allow the ring to be placed in the coffin under the condition that it would be removed soon after the funeral. The funeral proceeded smoothly, and I was able to say my final goodbye to Emma. Emma is really gone. Jess, we won't see her ever again. Sarah, being Emma's relative, would be attending the cremation, but as a non-family member, I planned to call a taxi and leave. Sarah accompanied me to the taxi stand. Are you sure? Not staying until the end. I've already said goodbye to Emma, and I have to go home. There's something I need to do. What? Can you come to my place tomorrow? There's something I want to give you. She smiled softly, a bit nervously, at my words. Yes, I'd be happy to. In my home workshop, there's a ring I've been making for Sarah. Originally, I planned to finish it on the night of the exhibition and give it to her today. Just to make it clear, though I think you know, I've been making a ring for you, and I only thought of you while making it. It felt somewhat embarrassing to say it out loud. Whether she knew my thoughts or not, she didn't hide her joy and held my hand tightly until the taxi arrived. As the taxi drove away, the scenery outside the window grew distant. Goodbye, Emma. I wondered if she had ascended to heaven peacefully. For a moment, I became worried, but then I felt certain she was fine. Looking up at the blue sky above the smoke rising from the crematorium, I finally remembered Emma's beautiful smile, not the sad look from my dreams. Why did Dad ever support someone like you? You're completely useless, a total waste of space. You are fired as of today. Get out of the company now. I was suddenly called in and hit with this unreasonable notice of termination. Why did it come to this? When I told my wife, disheartened, she just smirked in a way that seemed almost sinister. That company is finished now. My name is David, and I'm 40 years old. I had the fortune of working at a major publishing company. I lost my father when I was young, and my mother raised me on her own. Being poor, I loved reading books at the library, where I practically lived. Books introduced me to various worlds and took me on countless adventures. I've always aspired to be an author, to create such worlds myself. I tried to enter competitions as a student but never even came close. I lacked literary talent, and I couldn't afford the luxury of chasing a writer's dream. This was especially true after losing my mother in middle school. Living with relatives on a temporary basis until high school graduation, I felt out of place and spent as much time as possible at the library. Upon graduating from high school, I had to move out, which meant giving up on going to college and finding a job instead. I wanted a job related to books, even if I couldn't write novels. Perhaps I could support those who did. Job options for a high school graduate were limited. It was during this anxious job hunting phase that President Parker, the current president, reached out to me. We often met at the library, discussing books and sharing recommendations. One day, he said, "You are always here. Do you love books that much?" I've always loved books and even aspired to be a writer. Have you given up on being a writer? I hadn't given up the dream of being a writer, but I told President Parker about my family's poverty, my mother's death, living with relatives, and the necessity to find a job instead of going to college. If you must work instead of pursuing further studies, how about trying for an interview at my company? We normally look for college graduates, so it might be tough for a high school grad like you, but someone with your passion could make it. All I can offer is to make an interview slot available for you. What do you say? I'll do it. Please give me the opportunity. I jumped at the offer immediately. A chance to work at a major publishing house as a high school graduate was unthinkable. If this opportunity doesn't work out, I'm willing to do any kind of field work. I didn't want to waste this chance and approached the interview with full determination. That's how I joined a company, working as an editor for 25 years since I was 18. Now, I manage several popular authors, and although I feel sorry for my wife Sarah, I find my work fulfilling. Sarah's understanding of my job is something I'm grateful for, and it's her support that allows me to devote so much to my work, though I wish I could spend more time with our 3-year-old son, Tyler. President Parker, who had been in poor health for some time, passed away. Losing President Parker, who had been like a father to me since the day he gave me a chance after our conversation in the library, was unbearable for me. Thanks to his guidance, both strict and kind, I, a high school graduate, was able to perform on par with college graduates as an editor and as a person. I owe my current position of handling many authors to President Parker. Among them, taking charge of the company's leading author and literary giant, Mr. Anderson, was a source of pride for me. Mr. Anderson was challenging to work with, leading many editors to be reassigned quickly. President Parker, my predecessor, had a relationship with him, and they used to call each other comrades rather than friends. When I was assigned Mr. Anderson, I felt recognized by President Parker, and it was an incredibly proud moment for me. Though I felt a huge void in my heart from losing President Parker, who I regarded as a father figure and to whom I owed so much, work still wouldn't wait for me. Do you think he'd want you to stop here? Pull yourself together. You won't do him any honor like this. Mr. Anderson also said the same and gave me a pat on the back. There are readers waiting for our authors' works, and the authors are working hard to meet those expectations. I can't afford to stand still. President Parker's passing has left more than just me in despair. His amiable nature had won him the love of many, and his sudden death has deeply affected not only the employees, but also many of our affiliated authors. During this time, Alex Parker took over as the new president. Alex, the only son of the previous president, and to me, he's like a younger brother, though we are years apart. Ever since President Parker took me under his wing, I've been invited to dine with the Parker family numerous times and have shared meals with Alex. President Parker used to say, broadening your horizons is crucial for an editor. Spend some time with my son too, and he would take us to various places to hang out. Alex, with his impeccable manners and charm, didn't seem like a typical heir, and he grew fond of me, calling me Big Brother. President Parker, Alex, and his wife were like a second family to me. After graduating from college, Alex spent a few years working in a different field under the guise of training to learn the basics of management. Knowing that Alex was coming to the company to take over as president brought me relief. I was also happy to see Alex again and was looking forward to working together. I hadn't been in touch with him since he graduated from college. I wonder how he has grown. However, I was shocked to find that the Alex I knew had changed completely. He became tyrannical, lashing out at subordinates unjustly, and was quick to terminate contracts with authors whose sales dipped even slightly. He adopted a short-sighted sales-first philosophy, only aiming for blockbuster hits. This book isn't selling well. Who wrote this? We don't need such people in my company. Cancel the contract. But President Parker, this book was just released recently, and the author has produced numerous hits before. Shut up. What does it matter if they were successful before? It's meaningless if they are not selling now. We can afford to keep underperforming authors. Cancel the contract immediately. The company's atmosphere became tense, and the employees couldn't hide their unease. Then, one day, I was summoned to Alex's office. Hey, do you even care about your job? Just because you have one best-selling author doesn't mean you can get cocky. As soon as I entered the room, Alex slammed his desk, intimidating everyone around. I'm doing everything I can. What's gotten into you, Alex? Why have you changed like this? I'm not the same person I used to be. Don't call me casually. I'm the president. Alex screamed, his face turning red. I never liked you to begin with. Just because my dad favored you, you think you can act like a big brother. That was never my intention. Look at this. The only author under your charge who's selling well is Mr. Anderson. What are the other authors doing? What's the point of having editors? Alex tossed the sales report at me as if discarding it. True, Mr. Anderson is a big seller, but that doesn't mean the others aren't selling. Every author has their fans, and that's why we've come this far. If they're not selling like Mr. Anderson, what kind of authors are they? Making dull stuff interesting is the editor's job. If the author's work is boring, it's up to you to tweak it and make it sellable. Weren't you an aspiring author? That would no longer make it the author's work. I was at a loss. Authors exist because of their fans. If we, as editors, start meddling too much, we'll leave the fans behind. Don't you dare instruct me. You're a mere high school graduate. What do you know? Even if we collaborate on creating a work, altering it without the author's consent is never permissible. Have you forgotten the principles of your predecessor? Didn't Alex still respect his father, President Parker, as a son, did he? I couldn't tell. Something had changed him beyond my understanding. I'm the president now. My father is no longer here. You've got some nerve defying me, a mere high school grad. Alex wouldn't even look at me anymore. No matter what you say, I won't alter the works. The predecessor treasured the author's originality above all, and I believe that collaborating while preserving that integrity is the editor's role. I appealed to Alex with a glimmer of hope, believing that President Parker would never have wanted the works altered. Why did my dad ever support someone like you? You're just incompetent trash, and you're fired as of today. Get out of the company now. I never expected to leave on such bad terms and was deeply disheartened. Was I too naive to think we could understand each other if we just talked? Dwelling on it won't change anything. Being fired is a fact that won't change no matter how much I think about it. I have a family to consider. I gathered my belongings and left the company. I'm home, Sarah. I'm sorry to spring this on you, but I have something to tell you. Welcome back. Oh my, you look pale. What happened? As soon as I got home, I confided everything to my wife. She listened intently to the end, comforted me, and made some coffee. Even in such times, my wife remained kind and understanding, and her gentleness felt more profound than ever, given my disappointment with Alex's transformation. Yet, curiously, my wife had a mischievous smile on her face. Het, that company is done for. David, you'll be busy again soon, so let's take it easy for a bit. Don't worry, everything will be fine, she said before leaving the room to make a phone call. A few days later, I received a call from Alex. Hey, David, what do you think you're doing? Is this some kind of revenge? This is why high school grads are incompetent. It seemed that the authors I was responsible for had initiated a collective boycott, causing significant disruptions to the company's operations. And the ringleader appeared to be Mr. Anderson, the literary giant I had been managing. Of course, I had no knowledge of this. My wife, sitting across from me, smiled triumphantly. Mr. Anderson, the company's flagship author, is a living legend whose works will be celebrated for centuries, thanks to his numerous awards, including the Nobel Prize. His influence among authors is immeasurable. With Mr. Anderson leading the charge, the uproar was significant, and the boycott quickly became a hot topic in the media. However, the boycott wasn't just due to Mr. Anderson's influence. The alterations Alex had instructed in the work were exposed to both the author and the readers after publication. Every author has their fans, and fans can tell when a work has been altered. I read your new work. You've changed your style quite a bit, haven't you? I preferred your previous style. In this era of social media, such direct feedback from readers can make authors suspicious. One by one, the alterations came to light, and the uninformed authors were furious, leading to a massive scandal for the company. Not only did the authors lose faith in Alex's company, but so did the readers, resulting in the company's bankruptcy and its eventual absorption by a larger entity. Alex was forced to resign, and all executives involved in the alterations were dismissed, left to fend for themselves. A few days after the scandal, I visited Mr. Anderson's home. Mr. Anderson, I can't thank you enough for everything. What are you talking about? Even without my intervention, that company would have collapsed sooner or later. I just added a bit of flair to the proceedings. More importantly, you're an exceptional editor who has always worked with the same passion for books as the authors themselves, regardless of our familial connection. Any company foolish enough to fire you is making a big mistake. And there's my father-in-law, Mr. Anderson, laughing heartily. It's been 15 years since I joined the company, and 10 years since I became Mr. Anderson's handler. Even on that day, Mr. Anderson praised me just like this. David, how long has it been since you became my editor? It's been 10 years. I've learned so much from you, Mr. Anderson. Is that so? You've always been so humble. I have a serious proposal for you, and I won't force you, but please give it some thought. And that's how I was introduced to Mr. Anderson's daughter, my now wife, Sarah. He saw potential in me as a marriage partner based on my character and work ethic. Although we were only slightly acquainted from my visits to their home, a 5-year courtship followed, leading to our marriage. On the day I was fired, the person my wife was calling was none other than Mr. Anderson. She had been consulting with her father about the company's internal affairs, which I had shared with her, and Mr. Anderson had been concerned about the company's future ever since the predecessor's passing. As a result, the company's disregard for its authors became public, and Alex was forced to resign, leading to the company's bankruptcy. After the scandal, I became the president of the merged company, thanks to Mr. Anderson's strong recommendation. I'm navigating through each day with little understanding of management, constantly learning and keeping busy. Thanks to my diligent and honest work ethic, I've earned considerable trust from the authors I've managed so far and am gradually regaining my former self. We're also focusing on training new recruits to prevent past mistakes. Despite the overwhelming workload, I find fulfillment in facing this critical juncture. One day, a subordinate rushed into my office. President Johnson, among the job applicants, it seems Alex was among those scheduled for an interview in a few days. Alex, all right, I'll talk to him. Really? After everything he did? Are you sure? It's okay. He's actually the son of the former president, Mr. Parker, and was raised almost like a brother by him. There must have been some reason for that incident. I'll go and have a proper talk with him, and I'll take responsibility for his actions. Despite the criticism and my employees' apprehension, I decided to conduct a one-on-one interview with Alex. I was concerned about Alex and wanted to have a proper conversation with him. On the day of the interview, Alex appeared as he used to be. David, I'm truly sorry for what happened, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. Well, there must have been some circumstances I'm not aware of, Alex. Sit down, let's talk. Alex shared his story in bits and pieces. While on assignment, he was entrusted with a crucial project and worked tirelessly with a colleague to ensure its success. However, on the day of the project, a mistake by his colleague led to the loss of critical data, and despite their best efforts to recover it, the project ended in failure. The colleague, who was a distant relative of the company's president Williams, shifted all the blame onto Alex, leaving him with no place in the company. Then came the news of his father's passing. The project's failure had already eroded Alex's confidence, and he found himself unable to trust anyone, making the prospect of taking over the company daunting. Nevertheless, he felt he couldn't let his father's company fail and became obsessed with chasing numbers. "I now realize how foolish I was, and I said terrible things to you, David." Seeing Alex talk through tears brought me a bit of relief. His core character hadn't changed. "Alex, I'm glad you opened up. What you did was inexcusable, but years have passed since then, and Alex is now a vibrant part of our company." Together, we apologized to the employees and authors multiple times, gradually regaining their trust. Alex was always a sincere and diligent young man. It wasn't too difficult for him to regain trust with his work ethic and honesty, even though it took some time. After that interview, Alex and I spent a lot of time catching up. Memories of growing up like siblings, thoughts of the departed predecessor, and considerations for the future. In our lengthy conversations, I realized how much I had been supported by those around me, including what I had received from the late President Parker. Now it was my turn to give back to Alex, to support him through whatever comes our way. "Alex, I want to pass on what I received from the predecessor through you. No matter what, I'm on your side. If you ever have any trouble, don't hesitate to talk to me." We took advantage of Alex's secondment experience, and he is now managing the company's operations, not as an editor. He actively sought input from younger employees, and under his influence, our company's performance has continued to rise in a struggling publishing industry. This success is something neither the predecessor nor I could have achieved alone. It's thanks to the fresh perspective Alex brought to the company. Our performance has significantly improved since Alex joined us. It's not just my achievement. The groundwork was laid by you and Dad, which made this possible. Now, without a father, Alex and I support each other like real brothers, running the company together. At first, people said I was too kind-hearted for putting up with someone like that, and it seemed like Alex was severely scolded by Mr. Anderson as well. You can regain the trust you've lost, no matter how long it takes. Remember, your actions don't just affect you, but also David, who took you in. I'm watching," Mr. Anderson said with a strict yet kind gaze. "These years have been full of various events, but they've also been a time when I truly felt blessed by the people around me. My parents, who raised me with all their might despite being poor, and President Parker, who took me in and raised me after my parents passed away. And even after becoming independent, I met my mentor Mr. Anderson and was able to be with Sarah, who has always been devotedly supportive. I've been supported by the employees and authors, which helped me get this far. Alex certainly made an unforgivable mistake, but would he have erred in such a way if it weren't for his experiences at the assignment location? However, it's also true that he was able to grow from that incident. Yet, that incident also led to growth and was a turning point for the company. We might have lost trust once, but now we continue to lead in the publishing industry. Am I doing enough to repay President Parker? Recently, thanks to Alex's enthusiastic work, I've been able to spend more time with my family at home. David, you've worked hard enough. Now it's my turn to step up. Are you sure? Don't overdo it. Oh dear, if you worry that much, it seems like you don't trust Alex, does it? But Alex has got this now, let's go. Right, don't worry, I'll call if anything happens. The team you've built is capable. Time for some family service. Today, we're off on a family vacation, thanks to Alex and the team who made sure I could take some time off. All right, I'm leaving things in your hands for a while. See you soon. Living honestly and with integrity has brought me this far. Grasping my family's hands, I cherished the blessings in my life.